So, I actually want to talk about the frustrating path of academic research and then get into possible ways you could speed it up and make it a little bit more exciting. But I don't know if those ways really worked for me in the past. So, I am just going to put them out there, and maybe you all have solutions too in terms of dealing with this. So, if you don't know me, I am Professor Dave Massack. I'm Associate Professor of Innovation Strategy and Entrepreneurship. And I created this whole reciprocity project to give back as much as I possibly can. There's so many people that help me out that I want to pay the favor for to help you out. So, this video is really geared towards those people that are either midway in their career, so like me, or even just starting out and they're thinking about what is this thing called academic research and why do people find it, why do they find it frustrating? What's going on with that in terms of the process? So I'm just going to walk you through in terms of what it's like to write a paper when you come up with an idea. So what you end up doing when you create a paper is you start with an idea, and you have to write basically a 40-page paper. Most academic articles are probably going to be a little longer than that because you need content. You need to explain things, so then you have an appendix and a lot of details. So what you'll do is you'll start on this idea and you'll create this sort of little tiny paper, and you'll think about how long, or collecting data once you get there. So at that moment when you have this sort of mini paper that has all of the details and theory of what you're thinking about, probably will take you probably about a year to complete and think about, is this actually a good thing? So some people might do that a little bit quicker, but in my experience and whenever I have seen other people that are like me, it takes about a year to get an idea from something that is like in your head to being down on paper. And now, why is that? Well, you have to so you'll write something, and then you have to go back and actually research these particular topics and go into different areas and think about what that actually means, and then revise the paper, revise your thoughts. So sometimes for a course, you can write a paper in 4 months, and you get a course paper at the end of it, but they're generally, they won't get you in a journal in any sort of way. They're not even close to getting in a journal once you have a course paper. You might be able to get your foot in the door, but chances are very just unlikely because there's so much rigor that is involved to writing a paper. So let's, take a course paper that you would write in school and then spend about 3 times as long as that just to get to the start. So then once you get there, you have to go through the ethics approval or whatever process you're going to get to collect data. That's going to take you probably about 4 months. Reasonably, it's going to take you 4 months, sometimes a little shorter, sometimes a little longer. And then after that, you have to collect that data. And collecting that data, or getting that data, I do archival data often, but I've done other things like experiments, interviews and things, and collecting that data is probably, whatever it is, it's probably going to take you another 4 months to actually collect that data. And if you're doing a more intensive study that's probably going to get more publishable, it's going to take a lot longer than that. You're probably looking at 2 years to work on something. And so this whole time you're sort of motivating yourself. You're already 4 years in at this moment, and you're keeping yourself active and focused on this, and this is working full time at this particular thing. People have different definitions of what full time is, but you can expect Monday to Friday or Monday to Saturday of working on this project. And then once you've collected and analyzed that data, then you have to think about what does this actually mean? What's this all about? And so then you analyze it and have some sort of implications. It's going to take you another 4 months. So you're probably about, a good 4 years in by the time you actually have a working paper that you can send to a journal. Now that's just the start. That's the thing. is that it is really only just the start. Because then you send it to a journal, and the journal, the editors, it goes to traditionally, an editor and then 2 or 3 other reviewers who are peer reviewed. They don't know who you are, and often they might know who you are, but just based on the topical area, that happens a lot. But what they'll do is, give you some good feedback. They'll try to be as blind as they can. So if they have a real close connection to you, that's not a very good reviewer. But they might know of you because the field is small, and so they're going to give you some feedback on this. And the feedback is going to basically say, this thing that you've worked on for the last 4 or 5 years is complete garbage, and you have to revise absolutely everything in that paper. And that is totally normal. In your first review, they'll probably get you to collect more data. They'll probably get you to do a completely different method. They will say that all of your theory is incorrect. And so you scramble together at that moment, because you know things a little bit better. You scramble together, and it'll probably take you, anywhere between 4 months to do this. If you're collecting data, it's probably going to take you closer to a year if you're collecting more new data. It just does. It always takes a long time. But if you're revising the paper, doing analytical stuff, it's probably going to take you 4 months, maybe 6 months to do this. 4 months is probably what you're trying to aim for, because the journals have a tight deadline. So at that moment, you're 5 years into this thing. And then often what will happen is you'll revise it. This is my own experience. This has happened to me many times at this moment. And this is just based on who I am and what I'm about. And, I'm also well aware of other people that are doing things that we're all just bumbling along like the rest of us. We're not rocket scientists, although some of us maybe are. But, then after that, you will get a rejection from that journal. So after you do all of that work, this is 5 years in, you will get a rejection for that article. And then you have to find another journal for that. So the rejection usually gives you really good feedback. They're usually really wonderful in terms of helping you out. But it's going to say this is not good enough for a journal, or it doesn't fit. There's a host of different reasons and sort of explanations that they give. But generally, it's just not going to get published at that journal. So then you got to submit it to another journal, and you go through the exact same process again. Usually that first revision is going to be extensive in the sense that you may be collecting more data, revising totally the theory, getting to different methods, and you go through that again, and that's going to take you another year to go through this whole process again. And then what's going to happen is you're probably going to get another rejection for that article. Very likely you're going to get a rejection. So then you go do that again and submit it to another journal. And maybe by about the 3rd journal, the 4th journal that you've submitted to, maybe it gets accepted. So at that moment, you're likely 7 to 10 years into this paper or this project that you've worked on you thought was going to be a really easy, straightforward paper that you were going to work on at the beginning. And you could see how frustrating it actually gets. So there is a lot of frustrations that you experience, and anxieties that you experience, and sort of just really not nice feelings without this process, or within this process. And you really do lose a lot of faith in yourself, because you have this long lead time by the time you actually get to the point where you actually publish this thing. There's just so much going on with that. And so you do lose a little bit of faith. And I'm going to give you a bit of a pep talk at the end, so just stay tuned. So, how do people actually speed this up in terms of academic research? Well, a lot of people will do sort of working with different colleagues and groups of people, and sometimes it speeds that up. And really what's happening is that the work is the same. However, you sort of specialize in different areas, and sometimes you can get that done quicker. Often, though, with colleagues, people do different amounts of work. So generally, a junior person is going to do the bulk of the work anyways. And so you get this compounding effect. It's kind of, it's a little unfair, but you are learning a little bit. Actually, the senior people know how to sort of craft stories and and give you motivation. So it's actually is a nice combination with that. That is one way that people do that, is to extend their network and build that out. That requires a whole set of skills too, because it's time working with groups and working with other people. It's kind of tricky doing that sometimes. And another one that's sort of works quite well is by pairing with a very senior scholar that has established esteem or status within the within the area, but they have to sort of agree to actually participate on this paper or this project that you're working on. So it's not always easy to do that. But that often speeds things up, just because you get a benefit of a doubt a lot throughout the review process, of getting through the review process. I know it seems unfair, but there is a lot of trust that's built into what we actually do. And that trust is really what's driving this. They're skeptical because of the fact that they don't know who you are and what you're working on. And so if they know somebody, and it's not the peer reviewers that are doing that, it's maybe the editor or the journal that just have a little bit more confidence in that, so you get the benefit of the doubt within the process. Now, it might seem unfair, but it is the nature of what science is at this moment. It works okay, because those senior scholars are usually really skeptical anyways, and they've often been editors and things like that as well. So they're often vetting this stuff before it even gets into the journal, or thinking about how to actually do this. So, that works as well in terms of speeding things up. And another one that ends up happening a fair bit, actually, for people to actually get tenure is, colleagues will reach out to you at various points and maybe ask you to be, an editor or a co-author on a paper that's almost already completed. That happens a lot, where, especially in terms of junior people, this is extremely common, where you're working on a paper, or somebody's worked on a paper extensively for already 4 years, right? That whole time lag, and then they reach out. So that person might reach out to a junior colleague and help them on the paper, to help them out, and then they don't have to do those 4 years of working on that. They still have to get up to speed and do a bunch of stuff, but that's how often people sort of speed up the process and actually get tenure. That's a real thing. Another way that people actually do this is they focus on certain topics or special areas, what are called sort of special issues of journals that sort of have a faster review process. And if you're in a topical area, sometimes you'll get it extremely quickly, or maybe you get invited to participate on this thing, which is a little different, but at the same time it still counts in terms of these publications, right, at the end of the day, for most places. And so, there might be a special issue on COVID-19, and there's a bunch that are out there, and if you write a paper quickly, it might very, very easily get into that special issue. So there's a lot of game playing that goes on in the background, and strategizing as well, right, that people sort of do. And for me, they don't work that well. That's not who I am. That's not my personality to do a lot of those things. So I tend to avoid them. However, it's not below me in any sort of way. It's just, it's not my personality. So, if you're feeling the sort of struggles of academic research and you're frustrated at this moment, know that what your outcomes are and what your achievements are not a reflection of who you are deep down inside. What's a reflection of who you are deep down inside is that character, that person, that wonderful who you are, that heart inside of you is the thing that actually does matter. It doesn't matter what outcomes you have in this world. I know some people would argue with that, because, you have to eat, but at the same time, you have to be a person, that you have dignity, and that you're still have hope, and you still love who you are. And there is a lot of you're just very excited about the world. You need to stay close to who you are in your heart, and not worry about those outcomes, that sort of external world that's out there. If you start worrying about those outcomes, it really starts to get to you, and it really eats you up, and it corrodes what's going on in your heart. So the best advice and the best thing that I can sort of say to you is to stay true to the wonderful person that you are. And so, you know, really work on being a better person. Even though you're working, don't get attached and caught up and wedded to the idea that who you are is based on a publication or a series of publications. Nobody cares about that. When you're dead, nobody's going to care about that at all. What people are going to care about is the fact that you actually made an impression in their life, and that you were a significant person in who they are. And all it takes is one person in this world to have that impression in. So maybe it's a partner that you're part of, maybe it's a colleague that, you know, when you die, you look back and you say, they will look back and say, you know what, they really changed my life and changed who I was inside. That's going to be more important to the world than another publication about some silly little topic that nobody's ever going to read in the future. So yes, science is wonderful, and I believe in science, but I'm also telling you to rise above of the frustrations and the feelings that you have to publish, and the feelings that you are insignificant, that you are a bad person because you don't publish enough, or that you are you're somehow tainted or wrong because of the natural processes that you go through and the opportunities that you get in academia. So I want you to have hope that you are a wonderful person, and that hope is going to be the thing that's going to carry you farther than you'd ever imagine. And knowing that you're deep down inside a wonderful person, that's going to carry you much further than another publication, another strategizing, another gaming of the system is actually going to take you. So give me a thumbs up if you like this video, and good luck in the academic research process. It's a load of fun, isn't it?